All right, we left off at number 8. If a scientist found a fossilized fish in layer B, what would he infer about the environment during the time the layer was formed? So again, we're here at layer B. There is a fish fossil, and so we could infer that this was a water environment at one time. If fish are living there, during this time period, this was some sort of water environment, right? Freshwater or salt water. All right, our geologic time scale gives us information about the different eras in Earth's history. And remember, eras are long periods of time, and then those are broken up into different periods. So we're just going to go over the larger eras, and then some of these things happened in specific periods within that time period. So the Precambrian time is 88% of Earth's history. Remember, we did the clock diagram where Precambrian was most of that 24-hour clock. It includes the formation of Earth about 4.6 billion years ago. So we're talking about formation of Earth's crust, ocean, atmosphere. All right, then after that, so Precambrian is furthest, the oldest, right? The furthest back in time. And then we have the Paleozoic next. At the beginning of the Paleozoic, there was what was called the Cambrian explosion, where there was an explosion of a lot of life. So before this time, during the Precambrian, we have, Precambrian was mostly single-celled organisms, and then the Cambrian explosion, we have more complex organisms starting to develop. So the Cambrian explosion was at the beginning of this time period, and then throughout the time period we have the first vertebrates appear. Remember, vertebrates are those organisms with backbones, and then also there are reptiles that appear. During the Mesozoic, remember, meso means middle, paleo means ancient, so ancient life, middle life. This is termed the age of reptiles. And this is when dinosaurs appeared. And during this time period, dinosaurs are appearing and also disappearing, okay? They also went extinct during this time period. So if they say anything about dinosaurs at all, you should be thinking Mesozoic era. All right, and then we also have mammals appearing. All right, during the Cenozoic, Ceno means recent, so recent life. This is the time period in which we live. It's called the Age of Mammals. So mammals appeared in the Mesozoic, but they dominate in the Cenozoic. And then also a main thing we need to know is that humans appear. All right, what marks the end of each era? Typically, it is some sort of mass extinction that is going to happen at the end of each era. And which era are we living in? And that is the Cenozoic. All right, the next part is relative and absolute age of rocks. And so the first question is, what is it? So kind of a definition. So relative age is the age of rock in relation to the other rock layers. So we're looking at, you know, what is on the bottom, what is on the top, what is in the middle. And typically these are horizontal layers. And so we're talking about sedimentary rock here. And the idea that the oldest is at the bottom, youngest is at the top, is the law of superposition. All right, absolute age is a little bit different. We're going to be talking about igneous rock here. So igneous rock, remember, forms from cooled and hardened magma and lava. And scientists are able to get an exact amount of years since the rock has formed. All right, and the way they do that is they use radioactive decay and the idea of half-life. All right, going down to these questions, how could continental drift explain the distribution of the same type of fossil in two continents that are now separated by oceans? So how might we have the same type of fossil in maybe North America that we have in Africa? And the idea of this is geological evolution, right? And the idea that organisms lived on a supercontinent of Pangaea before it separated. And so organisms were able to travel all around on that supercontinent. So I'm going to write organisms lived on a supercontinent Pangaea before it separated due to continental drift. Let's try and fit that in at the end. So they were able to roam around that entire continent, and then it split up, and now we see fossils on different continents for that reason. All right, what type of rocks are fossils found in? We said it earlier, but it is sedimentary. And how do fossils form? So remember, we have sediment that moves, so it breaks up into little pieces. That's what we call sediment, and it slowly hardens. And as it slowly hardens, it preserves the shape of organisms in the rock. And remember, preserved remains of once living things are fossils. What do scientists think caused the mass extinction that killed off the dinosaurs? So at the end of the Mesozoic era, scientists think that an asteroid hit Earth and killed off dinosaurs. What kinds of things can be trapped in ice cores? Things like air, organisms, sediment can be trapped in our ice cores. All right, in an ice sheet or an ice core, where would you find the oldest ice? So this follows the same idea as law of superposition. So the furthest down into the ice is going to be the oldest ice. Number 18, when examining an ice core, if you found an increase of carbon dioxide, CO2, levels in layers closer to the surface, what would that tell you? All right, so that is evidence of climate change and the fact that humans have created more CO2. So more recently, so in our Cenozoic era, we have humans creating more CO2. All right, so that is evidence of climate change. Okay, and what are humans doing again that is going to contribute to the CO2 increase? It's that we burn fossil fuels, right? We burn fossil fuels for our factories, our cars burn fossil fuels, any kind of energy. Right now, we use a lot of fossil fuels, especially coal, to get our energy.